is to discuss possible compensation increase, proposed compensation increases,
Right.
I think we can now say, instead of just possible.
Okay.
So in terms of where we are, in our last meeting together, the association, you all proposed a $1,500 base salary increase.
Mhm.
We discussed just the different funding sources that could come from in terms of monies available in M&O due to legislative increases, as well as higher than expected revenues in classroom site fund. So we took that increase, we took that proposal and worked with that as we met with the governing board the following week in a work study. And at that work study, shared a proposal to increase certified base salaries by $1,500. $1,000 of those dollars would come from classroom site fund in the form of a base salary supplement, and then 500 would come from M&O in terms of the base salary.
Okay.
And so that's where we currently stand. There is a governing board meeting next week that we're preparing for. We are in a position to take that to the governing board for recommendation if we're on the same page.
So, yeah, I think that we are in agreement. I don't really think, I don't know, I don't have any like counters or anything. I don't really have any questions because I think we know where the proposed funding is coming from. You know, it's definitely, I think, a huge win for PECTA, and I think also for our district. I mean, you know, not for nothing, but PECTA was out there fighting and asking for this. So I think it's fitting that it's coming. And I do think that, you know, at a time when we are still losing teachers, you know, mid-year, not even mid, it's not even mid yet, it feels like it. I think it's a really great way to show our staff who are sticking around that we appreciate what they're doing. And hopefully a great way to bring in maybe some of the like mid-year graduates into Phoenix L to hopefully fill some of the vacancies that we have.
Absolutely, well said. Well, then if we have an agreement, then we will move forward in proposing it to the governing board on September 20th as part of other compensation increases. Just a couple of the nuts and bolts of that, we will be proposing that it would be retroactive to the beginning of the school year. So it would be received in full. The nuts and bolts of how that's going to be processed, we're still working out. And so I hope to have a better update on that on September 20th, if not sooner. And then after, or I should say, if approved, afterwards, we would send another addendum. And thank you to everybody for being so patient with those last time. We are pretty short-staffed here in HR. And the good news is we have the capacity to produce those. So I think we'll have capacity to produce new ones. And then performance-based compensation is also going to the governing board for approval on September 20th. So it's a good time to do one of those compensation statements. We would hope to do one of those in October. It may take us a bit longer again, just because we are as short-staffed as we are. But we would want to get into the hands of our educators a pretty good statement of here's where your base salary is, here's where your performance-based compensation was. The retention stipends will now be delivered in full because those teachers who were new last year will now have received those retention stipends as well. So yeah, so you could definitely be on the lookout for those as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I know our members are very much looking forward to it, especially the newer ones, like you said, that'll be receiving that retention stipend for the first time. That's really exciting. And I think just a really, again, just a nice little acknowledgement of you know, the sacrifices that everyone is making. And we know that, you know, district office is making those sacrifices as well. We know everyone is super short staffed. I think we're all feeling the pinch of just, you know, year 4 of pandemic living. Could really go for some precedented times. So, but we appreciate all the work that you're putting in as well.
Likewise, and thanks for all that you all are doing. And I hope that today's letters training went really well, because I know at the end of the day it all benefits students. You know, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here to do.
Awesome. And then, so will there be compensation increases for classified staff as well? So I just know that Phoenix Union just upped their pay for classified staff.
Yeah, in the proposal to the board, it
Mhm.
will be to increase support staff by $1 per hour, support staff exempt as well by $1 per hour.
So would
Not
that bring
just
us to
for our minimum
15
wage,
or
but for
16?
everybody. It'll bring the minimum wage to 15.
Okay,
And the nice thing about how we're doing this, there's some districts that went up to 15, but they didn't increase everybody at the same rate. So they
right.
placed all those salaries. We would increase everybody by the full dollar.
Okay,
And so full dollar for all support staff and all support staff exempt, 1,500 for all certified staff. Again, that's not just teachers, it's teachers,
Right.
resource specialists,
Yep.
SLPs, PTs, OTs, psychs, social workers, and nurses.
awesome.
And then $500 for principals, $500 for coordinators, directors, and cabinet. That would be the full proposal to the board.
Great. And then, so would this be language that PECTA would be responsible for writing, or is this something like what I guess, what are our next steps in this process?
Yeah, in terms of the agreement, we abided by the language in the agreement that says
Mhm.
we meet and confer over these topics. If we wanted to update the agreement, because I think the agreement currently does read the $1,500, we could update that to
Yes.
3,000. And then as President Marnee, I think you could sign off on that. As administrative rep, I could sign off on that as well.
Okay, great. And then my last question would just be that in the, so when you, I guess, propose this to the board or bring this to the board on the 20th, will you be mentioning PECTA? Because I didn't hear PECTA mentioned at all. And I know that some of our members were, again, kind of upset by that, because while I know that 2.9 million is not the sole place that this money is coming from, we were out there in like 110-degree heat and talking to people who call us educational terrorists. So I think it would be nice just to have the acknowledgement that we really did put in the work to get that.
Yeah, duly noted. My apologies if I didn't do that in my.
I figured it wasn't
presentation.
on purpose.
No, I think from day one of joining the Phoenix Elementary team in May of 2018, I can't get tired of saying this, and thank you for reminding me to. Thank you for your advocacy. Y'all are on the front lines. You have been. AA has been on the front line legislature for the better part of a decade in a way that nobody else has been. And then that advocacy went on steroids in 2018, of course. You're still pushing hard, even though there's been setbacks and there's been different defeats, whether that is through the referendum process or through the sort of direct advocacy that you all did this summer. It is absolutely appreciated. I think that public education is where it's at right now because of the work of the association, PECTA locally, AEA statewide, NEA nationally. And we thank you for it.
Yeah, of course. We're glad to do it. I know that, as district admin, there are certain things you're not able to do. So we're obviously glad to kind of take on that, like we have that freedom to be able to show up at the Capitol and not be representative of the district and kind of be able to have those more kind of like, well, we're in the classroom and this is really what's happening, or we're on the ground. So, and we're glad to do it. And then, I know that there is concern around the AEL, and we actually just had a meeting with our political director last night for AEA. And so currently, obviously, that still continues to be a consideration. But I think the last time we had spoken, you had said, or had you said, I don't know. I feel like I've heard so many things. So I apologize if this was not in this meeting, but that we were the AEL not to be like pushed down the road again, or were it to be like they held it in place, that we would be able to finish this school year without having to make cuts. Was that something that we had spoken about, or am I just like crazy? I don't remember. I feel like I go to so many meetings every day. I really do apologize if that wasn't a discussion we had.
No, certainly not crazy. Certainly not. I don't remember exactly what we discussed on the 31st.
I was like, it's a while ago.
But yeah, it feels like it was like a year ago.
Yeah.
But with the carry forwards that we have, and with just our overall approach to budget, we want to put ourselves in that position where we have that cushion, and we can ride that out as best we can. But of course, we're in even in a more precarious space, I think, now than we were a year ago with the AEL, given this legislative increase, given the increased revenues in classroom site fund, and the ways in which the legislature, through their readoption of classroom site fund, put the classroom site fund underneath the AEL. And so that advocacy is going to be needed now more than ever. And it will be matched in terms of efforts and energies that we'll put into making sure we have a sustainable budget and a healthy enough balance to keep everything moving forward should the absolute worst occur. I can't say for certain what would happen. Just we don't know what the AEL, what the limit is. We don't know what our total revenues are going to be either. So, you know, it could be a lot more, it could be a lot less than we may be able to project. And without that projection, we can't, you know, we can never say for sure what would happen until you have that dollar amount.
Okay.
But just like you saw this past year, we're going to make sure that we have everything in as healthy a place as it can possibly be to keep school going.
Okay, awesome. And then in what ways can district advocate against the AEL? So I know like PECTA kind of has more of the ability to be boots on the ground and meeting with folks. And, you know, we are already starting, you know, planning for that and what, you know, how can we push, you know, the governor had said that he would open a special session and still has yet to do so. We kind of figure he's waiting to see how this voucher expansion thing goes. But at this point, the ball really is in his court. And I think we have, you know, every opportunity now to start holding him accountable to that special session. But I also think, you know, the outcome of the election is going to be key in, you know, determining what happens next. So, but in what ways can the district advocate against the AEL, or is that something that they can do?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. The wiggle room for the district, like capital D, right, is harder. And remember, we're all the district,
right?
We all represent the district. We all make up the district, and the advocacy that we see from educators is happening through your professional association, through AEA, through PECTA more locally, NEA more nationally. Administrators do have a professional association, Arizona Superintendents Association. I think you saw some advocacy from ASA as well. We definitely saw it in Red for Ed, but saw it with the AEL as well. And I think you're going to continue to see the same thing through our participation in those other professional organizations. So whereas the district, you know, we cannot serve that large advocacy function, all of us as participants in a society, and folks that play a role in public education as taxpayers, as you know, and as educators and professionals ourselves, we can all advocate through those different organizations. And I think you'll see that even more so. Okay. Should this continue to hang over everybody's heads?
Well, hopefully not. We'll see.
Can I just also add that earlier this year, we had also, the board had passed a resolution and a letter to the state capitol. So I would also just say that the board would be willing to do that same action as well.
Oh, absolutely. And Jessica, or Miss Bueno, we really appreciate you always. Like, I know that the board is amazing in just like advocating always. I just had wondered, it was more of like a personal curiosity because I really don't know. I wasn't sure at like the district administration level, like so I know that there are like certain things they can't do, but that's a really good point though, that maybe could, you know, some things go through the board.
Yep. No, thank you for that reminder. Because yeah, that advocacy through the board and through ASBA, another advocacy organization that's been at the very front lines of holding our legislature accountable for funding public education, supporting public education more broadly.
Awesome.
I think what happened last year was there may have been quite a bit of folks saying, oh, they'd never do that. And then it got really close to the line, and we saw that this was not a joke. And so I don't think it will take folks nearly as off guard as it did last year. I remember even February last year as a parent in my own kids' schools, talking with parents in a pickup line, they had no idea, no clue that this was hovering over anybody's head. Right.
Well, I think there's definitely going to be some more action, at least with, you know, in terms of like other local, other local community organizations, not necessarily the Teachers Association, because we can't go talk to parents, at least not, not as easily. But I think that there is going to be much more work being done. I know Save Our Schools is currently working a lot on that front, but just letting parents know, hey, this is happening and this could potentially get ugly and your kids could be collateral. So yikes. Hopefully it doesn't get to that. I'm really hoping for good things.
Yep. And of course, hope is earned through sweat and hard work. And again, just thank you all for doing that.
Yeah, emphasis on the sweat. Really gross. All right. Okay, so what do we do now? I feel like this was like the easiest negotiations ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can adjourn if there's no other questions. And then, September 20th at the board meeting, we will make this recommendation to the board. Again, if approved, we'll take immediate next steps to put it into action.
All right.
That change in pay. As we are looking at paychecks and pay calendars, we'll have updates in terms of where folks can expect it.
Great.
I expect to start to see it.
That was the question that I did have, because I had a couple of members asking me, is it going to be then prorated through the rest of the year, starting on a specific date? Is that pretty much the plan?
We're still working on that. There's a couple different ways it can do it. One is to do back pay in terms of, had this increase been in place July 1st, here's everything you would have earned up to this date. And
Okay.
now you'll start receiving it moving forward. We can also take the whole and prorate it to the rest of the year.
Okay.
And there's costs and benefits of doing it either way. And so we want to make sure that we study that really closely. We've never had an increase like this happen like at this part of the school year. So we want to make sure there's no unintended consequences of doing it one way or the other.
Okay.
Great. Does anyone else, April, did you have any questions, or John, do you have any questions? Nope. Okay. And then I'm so sorry. I know you've already answered this and I started to write it down and then didn't. What deliverables does PECTA have, if any?
To us, as administration, none that I can think of.
Okay.
But keep delivering on the promise of public education. Delivering that promise in every day that you're teaching, and every afternoon, evening, and weekend that you're advocating, and that whole cycle of it.
Did you need an updated professional agreement? Because we had mentioned that at one point, saying the additional.
Oh yeah, right. That's right. So now that 15, well, I guess, does that wait until the board decision has been made?
We can. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're abiding by the agreement as it currently stands, because we
Right.
meet and conferred over this. So if we wanted to add it to the agreement, yeah, we can definitely do that. In
Okay.
terms of happening before or after the board meeting, typically we would have the agreement approved by the board, and then we would go from there.
Okay.
And so I'll have to do my homework and see whether or not that would have to happen that way. I think because the agreement's already in place,
Right.
we'd be tweaking this way. We may not need that step.
Okay.
But yeah, I can look into that.
Okay, thanks. I remember that we were pretty intentional about it being very like contingent. So I think you may be right that we may not have to, but I just wanted to make sure that we're covering all of the all of the bases. So.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
And thanks for that reminder, Haley.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I guess we're free to adjourn, and we will see you at the board meeting on the 20th. Thank you again, Mr. Quintana and Dr. Diaz for all of your work on this. We really appreciate the collaboration, and, wish you all the best too. I know you're also down some staff members, and trust me, we can feel, we're very empathetic and we feel that pain. So have a good one.
Hey, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.
And thank you so much, Jessica Bueno, for showing up. We always appreciate you.